Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Ethan Applesauce Holmes with us today. Ethan, how are you doing? Your mic is muted, so unmute that. How are you doing today, Ethan?
I'm doing great, Cedric. How are you today?
I'm doing quite well, quite well. We have a very interesting conversation at hand today. I'm very excited for not only you, but for our viewers. People who will be watching this today and in the future who could use a source of inspiration when it comes to their endeavors in life. But before we get to some of those pieces, Ethan, where are you from?
I'm actually from Cleveland, Ohio, and to be specific, I was born and raised in Shaker Heights, a suburb of Cleveland.
Okay. All right. Wow. And what was it like for you growing up in Cleveland?
Cleveland, I'd say, is a city of dreamers, just like many smaller cities compared to the LA, the New York. And so many people, my peers, they almost felt like, hey, my life will start when I go to New York or LA or Chicago. Cleveland is just too small to make anything happen. And so I think that was a big part of growing up, is just dealing with a lot of people with dreams and, the ambition to go further.
Right. And what was it that inclined you to believe that Cleveland was that type of place?
I'd say there was very limited opportunities in certain industries. Specifically for me, it was food, the consumer packaged good industry, and there weren't the resources that you see in New York City or Silicon Valley or Chicago, where, they're really big in food manufacturing. So Cleveland, again, for me, was this small town kind of, with a bad name in many ways. And how exactly could I make the most of this in terms of resources?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what was elementary school like for you?
Elementary school was a great, opportunity for me to just be a kid. I enjoyed raking leaves, selling lemonade. I had friends and, did sports. But again, entrepreneurship was really that seed that kind of planted in my mind really during that elementary period.
Sure. Were you selling Pokemon cards?
I was actually selling chocolate bars around school or anything I could. But mainly my main hustle was like lemonade stands, raking leaves. I'd make flyers, post them at the bank down the street from my house, go around to businesses. And at this age, I was 13, 12, 13 years old, really just pushing it. And people respected that,
Absolutely. Now, where would you say that the seed was planted for you, the entrepreneurship seed? When was that planted?
I like to say around that time in grade school when I was, hustling around the neighborhood, raking leaves, selling lemonade, because that showed me, hey, I can be my own boss. And there's power to that. And I'm making $200 in this one day. And it wasn't about the money. Again, it was just about I set out to do something and I saw it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, Shaker Heights, they have big lawns out there, correct?
Certain places, yeah, certain neighborhoods. So I was able to definitely take advantage of that and go around and, really show people, hey, I'm this young Black entrepreneur. I had a childhood friend who was actually Caucasian, and it would really, helped with the marketing because there's this Black kid, this white kid, they're doing landscaping. And so, I remember one family actually said, hey, do all of our backyard and front yard and we'll give you $500 for the day. And I actually remember thinking, oh, we're rich, and it was a lesson for me because we wind up never completing the job fully. We tried the best of our ability, but we wind up realizing it was too much work for two people. But they didn't care so much about the work. They just wanted to help us out. But again, for me, that taught me as a youngster, don't bite off more than you can chew,
Wow. That's a great lesson to learn early on. And then you also learn the importance of diversity. Exactly. The importance of diversity and inclusion. And so I think those are two great lessons to have early on that obviously propelled you forward later on in your life. So, that being said, did you have were you inspired by any of your neighbors who did lawn care as well?
I'd say what my biggest inspirations around that time were other entrepreneurs. And so in grade school, I would actually go to the library during break or whenever and actually pick up the Entrepreneur magazine and just read the success stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that drove me. And then we can speak about this a little later, but my biggest inspiration at that time was a guy named Farrah Gray. And Farrah made $1 million at the age of 14 years old.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. We'll get to that. Did you also play Monopoly? Did that play a role in your mindset?
Definitely. I enjoyed Monopoly, enjoyed, economics and, really that entrepreneurship piece as a young child. So again, I really did like that. And I also enjoyed watching movies growing up where I'd see, this isn't a great example, but Gordon Gekko and see this guy, with the suspenders on, he's the boss, the CEO. And again, that drove me a little bit, if I'm being honest. So
absolutely. And sometimes you get raised by media a little bit. Media is a place where you find examples and role models and just people to love, people who are good at what you do already. Yeah, so I can identify with that. Sometimes I'm watching a movie and I'm thinking, I just like that character so much.
Right, exactly.
When I was younger, sometimes I would watch a movie and I would look at the way that they were dressed, and then when I would go to look for something to wear, I'd be looking for something like what I saw in the movie.
Exactly. That inspired you to go and do that. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, walk me through a day in the life of Ethan as a fifth grader. What'd that look like?
At that age, and that's so long ago now that it's hard to remember, but my mom was big in education. My father worked in social working. So I had both parents, and really just education was really a big part of them raising me. And so going to college, finishing school, that was always the priority. But I was one of those people that kind of moved to his own beat, maybe didn't necessarily color in between the lines. So entrepreneurship, doing mini projects, always on the side, it was always a priority. So that typically was a week or a day for fifth grade Ethan Holmes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And obviously you having both parents, can you talk a little bit about what they did and how that molded you as well? What did your mother do? Can you go into that, and what your father do? Yeah.
So both my parents, were very supportive. However, what I will, and I'll speak on what they did, but, my mother was really big in education. And so again, for her, it was always, hey, my boys are going to go to college and I want to make sure you guys understand all the important things you need in order to be successful. My father, his father was a bus driver, and he actually wound up going through college because of his academics. So that was, again, really a big part and importance in our household. So they definitely supported me in that way. Just, hey, Ethan, you need to make sure you understand how to read and write and that you're articulate and you know how to, handle yourself in situations. Yeah,
absolutely. And you have brothers and sisters too?
I have one brother and then I have a stepbrother, actually a half brother, but so yeah, two brothers total. But I grew up with one brother, and he's about 2 years older than me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. So in a sense, you're kind of like the baby in a sense.
Exactly. I am the youngest.
Right. Sure. But you had this knack for entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Ethan Holmes. He has a particular middle name. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. But this gentleman, he took his life and he made it count. He made it count in more ways than one. And I'm really happy to have him on the show today. So if you can, feel free to tell a friend or a family member that we're getting ready to get into yet another great story here on America's Next Motivator. Now, Ethan, when you got this money early on because you were an entrepreneur, did you ever save any of that money, or did you take it straight to the candy store?
I actually did invest, whether it was into marketing. However, I definitely had, help from my family because I wasn't able to have enough money from my profits to really cover everything. But, buying more equipment for rakes or anything needed in order to complete the job. So it definitely was about investing and having a little bit of money for the candy store. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. Got to keep that balance. Got to keep that balance.
Exactly.
So what did that translate into for you as a middle schooler?
Definitely. Yeah. So as a middle schooler, I started thinking more about entrepreneurship, as a legitimate business and more serious. And again, that's when Entrepreneurship magazine was really, it just carried me and showed me, hey, this is possible. And reading about the guy Farrah Gray around that time, again, opened that door even further.
let's get into that. Who's Farrah Gray?
Farrah Gray, he actually founded a company when he was 14 years old, actually maybe even a little younger, and then he sold it for $1 million at the age of 14. And so he's really been a pioneer for young entrepreneurs. He created a book called Realionaire, and the book told the story of how he actually started this company and really built a lot of different initiatives to help youngsters in entrepreneurship. And so that really inspired me to actually start this business.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about the book? What was it about?
Yeah, so the book was really like a self-help book. So I definitely recommend it to anybody. It's on Amazon, but it's called Realionaire. And again, it tells the story about how Farrah Gray grew up in a single parent household in Chicago. He dealt with poverty. He dealt with many issues that you would deal with just economically in that time. And he was able to overcome them by going together with kids in his neighborhood and saying, hey, let's create a program together where we make products and do services. And he actually made his first dollar by picking up rocks off the street and painting them and selling them as paperweights. So he was a natural born hustler, got interviewed by radio stations. He was really an influencer before there was an influencer, industry like we have today. So he really was a pioneer and then grew that to successfully selling his company. And being a millionaire at 14.
Sure. I also read a story about a guy when I was younger, because I'm familiar with the Farrah Gray story. He was one of the people who went viral before viral was really a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if it was Farrah though, or Farrah, but there was another gentleman who made $1 million by creating a website. Now everybody was trying to figure out how to be a part of the .com era. And this particular gentleman, if it's not Farrah, he allowed people to buy a sponsorship of, let's say, $1 for their logo. And he created a website out of people's logos, and that was the way that he made $1 million.
Wow, that's impressive.
He became really popular for that, and I was personally inspired by that. Farrah Gray, I was also inspired by his story, by him being, such a young millionaire. So I'm right there with you about those.
And if I can add, I actually met him after reading the book in Columbus. My godmother actually gave me the book. She's a big part of really motivating me and a big part of my story as a young guy starting this business. And so she took me to Columbus. We met Farrah Gray. He spoke and he said, hey, keep going. Here's a signed autograph. And that really lit a fire under me to, make this happen.
Sure. Now here you are years later, prepared to provide some motivational words to a young man out there. He might be 15 years old. He might be thinking about entrepreneurship today. I'd like for you to take about 15 seconds, and I'd like you to speak to the young people out there who are thinking about pursuing their entrepreneurial endeavors.
Definitely. And what I would say to those that are, thinking about doing entrepreneurship as a career, entrepreneurship is all about the mindset. It's all about, taking something that doesn't exist, a problem, a problem that is going on, and actually creating a solution for that. And so you don't have to recreate the wheel. You just have to take something that's there and innovate it. And so that innovation is a big part of it. And the number one thing is make sure you tell people about what you're doing, because there are people out here that want to help you. There are resources out here, grants, programs, incubators, accelerators that actually help young entrepreneurs, make their dreams come true. So again, it's really just about, staying focused on what you want to do, hitting the pavement and making it happen, and making sure you're telling people and taking advantage of those resources in order to launch.
Absolutely. Can you tell the people out there what an incubator is?
Yeah, an incubator is similar to a program or a group or accelerator where essentially you sign up for this. They typically choose out of a certain amount of applicants for you to be a part of this program. And then they actually work with you for either a series of months, a series of weeks, really growing you, helping you accelerate and strengthen whatever your business is. So incubators are all over the country. All you have to do is just Google or look up incubators in your state or city. And you can usually find some for that specific industry or business that you're interested in doing.
Now, a young person or even a young adult who's not in the know, they might think incubator and they might start thinking something that they saw Spider-Man or Superman or something like that. Is an incubator like an office space? What is it?
So it can be an office space, but again, it's It's really just look at it as a collective of people coming together with someone, or whether it's a company, whether it's an organization, growing and leading those people, saying, hey, you need help in sales, you need help in marketing. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to work on sales. For the next 3 weeks after that, we're going to work on marketing. And so that incubator is really helping you grow while you're still also being, independent and solo on your own enterprise. But again, there's a lot of incubators out there. Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, go out there and find an incubator. I don't think it's ever too late to get involved in an entrepreneurship endeavor, but you're also never too young. As soon as you have an idea and that light bulb goes off about something that you want to do, doesn't matter if you're 5 years old, 6 years old, go ahead and get out there, or 11 years old, go out there and get started. Wouldn't you say that?
I would definitely say that. It doesn't matter what your age is. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, who's also a role model, her name is Michaela Ullmer. She actually Michaela, Mikaila, last name Ulmer. And Michaela Ullmer started a company called Me and the Bees, and it's a lemonade brand. She went on Shark Tank, and she started this company, I believe, when she was about 5 years old, maybe even younger, and when she came up with the concept. And she's grown it now to thousands of grocery stores. So it doesn't matter how young you are. Even if you're just selling lemonade in front of your house, that can, lead to you being in grocery stores.
Right. Now, you said you sold lemonade as well, right?
Yes, I did. Yep.
What was your recipe? You feel like passing that down?
It was a pretty simple recipe. Anybody can, look it up. I believe I had some country thyme mix and some water with some ice, and that was pretty much it. However, again, it's not necessarily about the product. When you're at that age and you're at that level, it's just about how you market it. And so me having a white counterpart, my friend, that diversity piece, as well as just being young in the way we were coming at customers. So we actually even created a mobile lemonade stand where we'd actually go door to door. So if one day it was slow because people weren't stopping, then we're going door to door saying, hey, do you need lemonade? And eventually, in today's age, you might get stopped for doing that. As we've seen in the news, you need a permit. But for us, we had fun. Yeah. Yeah.
And talk about the thrill. Talk about how it continues to enthuse you to be an entrepreneur. What's that like when you can sit back and say, hey, my phone just went off. That was the sound of me making a sale. What's that like?
Yeah, that feeling of being an entrepreneur. It's really invaluable because you're doing what you love. So you're not necessarily going to work. You're not just carving time to go do something that might not be something you're passionate about. It's something that, again, you've created your baby and you're seeing it come to life every time you get that sale. And another big thing that drives me is I'm a problem solver and I'm a creative. So I like being able to solve things. I like being able to have an idea while I'm going to sleep, and by the next day I'm working on it. So if that sounds like you, then you can be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Could you talk about a problem out there in the world that needs solving?
Definitely. And a big problem, I'd say that needs solving are food deserts in this country and the access to healthy, all natural items, specifically fruits and vegetables in inner city areas like Cleveland and other, large cities, where they're not getting those access to fresh fruit, farm to table options. Now, there have been a huge, increase in CCS programs where you do have the farm to table. However, there's still a lot of areas where, if you want to get a snack or some food, your only options are McDonald's, Burger King, or the local convenience store where they're not selling fruits and apples. They're only selling bags of chips. And so I think that's a big issue. And it's not necessarily cost. It's just about making it more available and educating the people in that area.
Right. And can you explain to us, I know you mentioned the farm to table, which I think is absolutely essential, but can you explain the climate? What I mean by that is this. What is a food desert? Mm-hmm. And why is it a problem that people need to know about?
Definitely. In a food desert, and you could probably give them the formal definition. I hope I can explain the best way, but it's an area, where they're typically, it's as simple as the word, there's not a lot of access to a specific food. In this case, it's in the inner city, fresh fruit options, fresh produce. And so those areas are really deserts. They're dried up of those resources. And so being able to educate the people that, hey, Instead of having that pop and those Doritos, maybe you should go and buy some fresh fruit for your child. I think that's the first step. Then from there, is actually making sure it's available at retailers. If you go to certain grocery stores in certain cities, you go to the inner city, you see that they have all the cheap, junk food items. Meanwhile, you go to the suburbs and they got all the, better for you items. So that's an issue right there. And I know I make applesauce. I've dealt with Kroger. I've dealt with Whole Foods. And I've actually had retailers say, hey, your applesauce is, organic properties. It's higher, quality. So we're going to actually put you in the suburban areas. And I'm like, hey, I'm a minority. A lot of my buyers and followers are from the inner city. Can we put it there? No, that's not an area that we tend to focus on. So you see what I'm saying? And that's just the norm. And it's not that they're trying to be, malicious or anything like that. It's just they realize that the people in those areas are not buying, the all natural, the whole food items. And that's the sad truth.
So what can we do to educate people on the need for them to eat, whether it be organic or fresh fruits and vegetables, to make a difference? Because you look at somebody like me, myself, there was a period of time where I'm drinking orange juice out of a can because it needs to be mixed with water and made into orange juice. I'm drinking grape juice out of a can. It needs to be mixed with water and made into a pitcher of juice, to the point where I really thought that fruit juice came out of a can. And so when you talk about living in a food desert, you're talking about young people who are growing up in neighborhoods and never really eating fresh fruits and vegetables or understanding the value of fresh fruits and vegetables. So when the corner store puts a jar of Ethan's applesauce, Holmes applesauce, and that applesauce costs $6, right? It might be the most expensive thing, throughout half the store. And they're thinking, oh, I'm not going to buy that because it's too expensive. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to somebody who not only went around trying to solve rinky-dink problems, this man created his own applesauce. We're going to talk more about that in the second half. But right now, when we're talking about food deserts, the fact that you've got young people growing up who might never, they might never in 15 years have a jar of organic applesauce, right?
Exactly.
What can we do to educate people on the importance of fresh fruits and vegetables?
And I think, number one, it starts with at home, and I know they're doing a lot of initiatives in school. Michelle Obama over the last several years has did a ton of work with the government of making sure that in schools that they're getting fresh fruit and vegetables for those that are, not fed before they come to school, or that might be their only meal for the day. So making sure they're getting those vitamins and those fresh nutrients is something that the schools are doing. Now, however, when it comes to at home, that starts with the parents. And unfortunately, we do have a climate where sometimes, babies are raising babies. And so as young people, we have to be able to step up and say, hey, we're going to make sure that we're actually going to raise our child to eat, healthy and make healthy decisions. Yeah.
Are people more inclined to healthy outcomes when they eat fresh fruits and vegetables? Does it make them better performers?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, obviously you can live longer, you're healthier, you feel better. And so all of those things are important specifically. Okay. Definitely.
Okay. And just so that we can understand, you became an entrepreneur only to find out that people were intentionally putting high quality goods in suburban communities as opposed to the inner cities.
Correct. And again, that was one of those things that said, hey, I am a for-profit business, and a big part of my journey is making sure that I can make a sustainable business and be profitable. But at what expense? Am I bettering my community? And when I'm talking to the Black and brown children and I'm saying, hey, here's some applesauce because I'm doing a presentation, but just so you know, when you want to buy it with your family, you won't be able to because it's not in your neighborhood, then that kind of bothers me. So again, it's really just making sure, like someone said in the comments, health is wealth.
How do we get your applesauce into all communities across America? How do we do that?
I think again, it starts with the corporations, those retailers saying, you know what, we're not gonna just look at price. We're gonna maybe lower our margin so we can make these items more accessible. For example, and I don't want to share all the corporate details, but Whole Foods, their margins can be as high as 45%. Meaning, if you sell a product to them at a price as low as maybe $2, by the time it gets to the shelves, it might be as high as $5. And so it's up to them to say, hey, maybe we can lower that margin to make these products more affordable to the people in the community.
Mm-hmm. So as I see this as an international issue, I look at what some other countries are doing, right? Mm-hmm. By no means do I want to be critical of America itself, right?
Right.
But you take something like the banana plant, right? Or even the coconut tree.
Right.
There are areas in other countries where they'll take one item that is healthy and it adds benefit to your overall health, and they'll make it accessible to everybody in the whole region. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, here in America, why can't we do that with something like your applesauce?
Right.
And do we have a responsibility to say, okay, I understand that from your corporate standpoint, it might not make the most financial sense for you to put this applesauce in the inner cities. But then does Ethan decide that he's going to open up his own storefront in the inner cities and explain to people that, hey, the same way you're going to spend $10 on a slime kit for your child, mm-hmm. you can spend $10 on this jar of applesauce.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that is something that's really a big future plan for us, is being able to actually create a storefront or donate a portion of our goods at a discounted price to those in need of healthy, fresh foods in those food deserts. So again, that is definitely a big problem that I want to fix one day for sure.
Wow. I think that's absolutely huge. And that's why you're here today. Because for a young person who might be growing up in a disadvantaged area, to have a storefront that's not just a corner store, but it's actually selling organic fruits and vegetables, something like your applesauce, I think that would be a real difference maker.
Definitely. And so what we do, a big part of being able to do that, is we actually focus a lot on youth entrepreneurship. Specifically in Ohio, has mainly been our targeted area, but we've worked with hundreds of high schoolers, middle schoolers, where we go into classrooms, we teach them about entrepreneurship through my story and through applesauce, allow them to pitch to myself about their own business ideas, and then they actually get to take home with them a cup of applesauce. So that way we're actually going into the inner cities, we're teaching them something, and then they're actually taking home this applesauce that they can go and say, hey, Mom, look what I got. So that's a big part. And we call that the Homes Entrepreneur Initiative. And it's our entrepreneur program we've been doing since 2015.
Wow.
Thank you.
Listen, I'm ready to support you and encourage the community to support you. Oftentimes it takes somebody who grows up in an area to think about what's going on and solve the problem. There were many, many, many articles written about food deserts across Ohio and other areas like that across the country. But you decided to do something about it, and I think that's great. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Ethan Applesauce Holmes. His name is Applesauce for a reason. We're going to get to that right after a brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network, Inc. And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Ethan Holmes here. Ethan, you mentioned that you guys had an initiative. What was the name of it?
Yep, Holmes Entrepreneur Initiative.
Okay. And what's that about?
Yeah, so it was founded in 2015, and the mission really was to be able to teach the youth entrepreneurship and being able to have that entrepreneurship mindset in whatever they decide to do. And so we've done it in a variety of different components where we've actually employed the students as interns in our business, and they actually go into grocery stores sampling our products. They get paid a stipend, and they learn entrepreneurship, confidence building skills all through the making and selling of our products. And then another part is actually us going and doing workshops in schools. Right now, we're doing everything virtually. So over the summer, I've been doing quite a lot of Zoom presentations, teaching entrepreneurship to these students. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, what was the name of your applesauce business and when did you found it?
Yeah, so the name of my product is Holmes Mouthwatering Applesauce. It's 100% all natural applesauce product. We currently sell it at about 300 different retailers, specifically in the Midwest, but we also sell online. We sell at Whole Foods, Heinen's, which is a major chain in Ohio and Chicago, Kroger, Giant Eagle, and many more. And so, again, it's a product that I started in 2008 when I came up with the concept at 15 years old. And then we successfully actually entered the market in 2015, getting our first supermarket chain and then growing from there.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. I'm so happy for you, man.
Thank you.
Well, sir, can you talk to me a little bit about what that journey was like for you from conception to the actual, bringing it to market? How did you, start from the jar? How did you create the jar? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so when I was 15 years old, I had a huge interest in entrepreneurship. I decided upon at first I was going to make chocolate. I was going to be the next Willy Wonka of Cleveland or something. And I realized pretty shortly, that was my first failure. I was 15 years old. I went to school. I made my own little chocolate bar wrappers. I went and printed them, and I thought that I was going to be this millionaire. And I realized pretty, quickly that people didn't like my chocolate. They weren't going to give me their last $5. So then I decided, why not do something healthier? This was a time where health conscious consumers were really emerging. Organic was a big trait that people were looking for. So I decided upon applesauce. And then I realized it's a product that, children consume, elderly, and everyone really likes applesauce, specifically in America and Europe. But the problem is it's always made the same with apples, sugar, and water, and sometimes ascorbic acid, which is an artificial ingredient, and other artificial sweeteners. So I said, why not make a product that was different than the rest, that had that homemade taste and feel? So I went to my grandfather. He actually lived with us. He was retired. He showed me how to make the applesauce one day. And then from there, I said, all right, I know how to cut the apples up. I know how to boil them, mash them, make applesauce. But this isn't Ethan's, mouth-watering applesauce. This isn't Holmes' mouth, So I spent a year in the kitchen trying new recipes, not trying new pieces of fruit, new apples, strawberries, anything I could, writing down the recipe, putting it on the refrigerator, and coming back the next week to improve on it. And so, again, that was really the start from, this concept to actually getting it in a jar. From there, just to kind of wrap it up, I had this final product, but I didn't have a label. I didn't have the packaging. So I actually reached out to a gentleman named Ron Hansen, and he actually, I said, hey, would you do some branding and packaging for my company? He said, you're 15 years old and you have this business. I love it. I'm going to invest in you and I'll do all your branding and packaging for free. And so this logo, the birds, all of this was created at first in 2008 for free. And from there, I was able to go back and spend money with him to invest and, really expand on that. So that's kind of how we got the packaging developed. And the reason why I share that story of how this gentleman named Ron invested in my product and my packaging is because I didn't know this guy. I just went on Google and I searched graphic designers. And I emailed about 6 different companies. Most of them didn't respond because he said, hey, this guy's a young black kid. He's got no money. Why would we respond? But this guy liked the fact that I reached out, that I was trying to do something. And so he said, I'm going to give you something that's worth $25,000, value, and do it for free. And so when you tell people about what you're doing, they'll want to invest in you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many times were you told no before you got that one yes that really changed the trajectory of your business?
I couldn't even tell you how many times, but it was a lot. I mean, countless times. I went to grocery stores from 15, all the way up to 19 years old, and I'd bring in a jar and say, hey, this is my product. They'd say, I love it. It tastes great, but you don't have nutrition facts. You need to get that together. Or, hey, you know what? You're missing the barcode. It needs to be a certain size. And so every time I'd get that feedback, I'd go back and improve. I then go to my local Ohio Department of Agriculture office and say, hey, what can we do to get this ready? And so every year I was almost getting better and getting my product more ready for the shelves.
How many years did it take you to actually get your applesauce on the shelves?
I officially got on the shelves in 2015, and I started the concept in 2008. So several years of really just, grinding it out, and really just starting from scratch, going around with a business card, giving out jars to friends and family. And there's a really great story you guys should look into by Damon John, who started Fubu, who's been a mentor to me over the last few years. But one thing that he's always said that's very important is he started off with 1 or 2 shirts, and he would actually give them out at video shoots and say, hey, great job, LL Cool J, but I need that back. And that was kind of me. I only had a box of maybe 20 jars, and I was like, hey, take a photo with it. If you like it, give me some money and I'll go make 3 or 4 more. And that was really it. I didn't have a ton of product. I didn't have a ton of resources, but I wanted you to think I was this millionaire. I had everything going. Yep.
Wow. Now, what was the number one thing that you learned from, the levels of rejection that you experienced along the way?
Definitely. And I will say that I've gotten more rejection as I've gotten older and become a full-time entrepreneur than when I first started. But it's a different level of rejection. But I'd say the rejection really drove me. You get more used to it. And then you also, and I think this is very important for anybody who's doing anything, whether it's entrepreneurship or school, you got to make sure that you think with a level head and think realistic, meaning that you might get an opportunity, a grocery store that says, hey, we're interested in learning about your products. I remember I used to screenshot that. I'd send it to my family. I'd post it on Facebook. Hey, everybody, this grocery store wants to learn about me. Turns out that they liked it, but they were going to go in a different direction. Now I had to go back and tell everybody it didn't work out. So I realized that rejection is part of life and that you got to just be able to keep moving forward with it and not let it stop you.
I also noticed how you said that rejection put different masks on, if you would. So when you were younger, rejection might have looked like, it's cute, but you're 15 years old. You don't have a budget.
Right?
But then when you got older, it put on a new mask. It's like your barcode is the wrong size.
Right, exactly.
Where's the nutrition facts? And so, but you overcame all the different faces of rejection and you brought your product to market. I want to let you know, I'm very, very proud of you. Very proud of you.
Thank you. And I can speak a little more. So we eventually actually launched on the market in 2015. I was a junior in college. Again, education was always instilled in me, but I really didn't necessarily want to go through the education system. I wanted to be a full-time entrepreneur. But no matter what you want to do, education should always be something that you pursue, just because it gives you opportunities and resources that you may never, see. And so for me, entrepreneurship was always key, but I was doing, a business major with a minor in entrepreneurship. And eventually I said, you know what, I'm kind of tired of partying and being a student. Why not, get this applesauce going? And so I wound up researching a kitchen in downtown Cleveland. I was able to rent this kitchen. And from there, they actually got me started with getting my nutrition facts in order, getting my licensing. I would rent the kitchen out on weekends. I'd have friends in there. I'd give them beer money, whatever I could, just to help me make the applesauce. And from there, it just grew, making a couple hundred jars on the weekend to eventually where I needed to go to Cleveland every other day from my college just so I could get this production done. And so that was really the beginning.
And so today you're distributing this applesauce where?
Yeah, so we're distributing really across the nation. Again, a lot of our orders are online. So we just got an order this morning from Georgia, but we ship pretty much everywhere. But all of our product is manufactured in Cleveland. We, for the last 3 years, rented a facility, a 13,000 square foot facility, where we would actually employ 3 individuals that make all of the products. So we're actually sourcing apples from local orchards around Ohio, large 700-pound bins of apples, peeling, slicing, coring and washing all that fruit with automatic equipment and then cooking it. And so there's a lot of photos and videos on our Instagram and Facebook. But again, everything we're doing starts from the farm, and then we're turning it into this final product. And then again, then we're selling it through our website or to distributors that then deliver it to retailers.
How do you find farms?
For me, it was about relationship building. I started off with one major farm, Patterson Fruit Farm, out of Ohio, and they've become family now to me, which is very strange because they don't have many Black suppliers. I think I might be their only one. And so me coming to them, they're like, who is this young Black kid buying our apple cider every week and apples? And eventually it became a point where they're like, hey, this guy's a major supplier for us. Let's keep this relationship. Let's sell his applesauce. And then other farms came to me, hey, we have some great prices. We see you're killing it in the applesauce game. And so that's how I was able to find orchards. And again, a lot of them don't deal with many Black people buying apples or produce, unfortunately. And so those are, really great relationships to have.
I encourage everybody to go out there, buy some of Ethan's applesauce. Holmes Applesauce is the name of the brand. If somebody wants to buy your applesauce, how could they find it?
Yeah, very simple and easy. Just go to homesapplesauce.com. The easiest way is to actually just have it order online. We actually are recently accepted it on Amazon, so we will be launching by the fall with the back to school season. But you can go on our website and buy it. Free shipping delivered to your door within 2 to 3 days.
Okay, that's incredible. Now, did you ever go on Shark Tank, or did you ever consider going on Shark Tank?
Shark Tank is so I'll say one thing. I've gone through quite a bit. I've raised about a little over $250,000. We just were recently chosen by Chobani, incubator program. So we're going to be in New York next year. But I've gone through so many doors. But with Shark Tank, yes, I've gone through the process maybe about 5 times. I even drove to Kentucky and stood in line for 4 hours just to get told, hey, we love you. We want to take you to the next round. I find out the casting agent actually had spoken with me in previous years and she loved it. But then the producer said, hey, we have too many food products this year. So it's almost like I always got just there. And then a good friend of mine actually went on Shark Tank about a few years ago. So I have a very close relationship with all of them, but I've never been on the show. And so that was always a failure for me because I felt like we have that brand, we have that story. But for some reason, because we're doing a food, it didn't necessarily click with the production team.
I look forward to seeing you on Shark Tank. And if they don't have the luxury of having you on their show, I still would like to see you at the very top of food production, just reaching the top brackets in your industry. I spent years of my life in foster care, and I see that youth in foster care in a city like Cleveland, Ohio, they could benefit from your applesauce, having access to your applesauce. And I think that would be huge as well.
In foster care, my girlfriend actually went through the foster care system, my best friend as well. And so, again, we're really about supporting the youth and just giving them the opportunities and the products and all of that. So I'm very big on that.
Wow, that's huge. Now, do you have a favorite apple that you like to use? What apple produces the best applesauce?
So our applesauce ingredients are very simple. We use Golden Delicious apples. It's a very sweet, it's usually a yellowish apple, and they're best for baking apple pies. They don't have a tart-like taste, and they're very sweet. And then we also use a Bartlett pear. It's a green pear, and then we cook everything down in apple cider. That's made with Golden Delicious apples. So everything is very appley, fresh. You don't taste any sugar or anything artificial, and then you get real chunks of fruit in each bite. So the consistency is chunky, but yet smooth at the same time.
Wow. I'm ready to buy.
That's a great product. Yeah. So you can buy a 3-pack, 6-pack online. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now I suspect after this pandemic is over, you'll be joining different expositions and going out and renting booths and letting the world know about your great applesauce.
Yeah, so that's a big part. The expos, there's several big expo shows across the country, Expo East, Expo West, and these shows allow food producers to actually set up a table and, allow retailers to know we exist. However, again, with COVID, it has changed the whole landscape. Everything's virtual. That's really right now a big focus, is making sure that we can actually reach new sales opportunities with, this pandemic going on.
Right. You guys must be growing a massive sales team at this time.
Right now, everything's really been internal, so we've kept everything lean. And so that's another lesson for everybody. Keeping your business lean is number one. We've rented a facility where we actually, I can go into this more detail later on maybe another segment, but where we were able to leverage that opportunity, where we're able to pay as we produce. We then only hired a few people on our staff. And then from there, we outsourced a lot of our components of our business. So again, keeping your business lean, that way you can, maximize your profits is really number one. Another lesson that I've learned over the last 6 months is you don't have to be everywhere. And so I've been burned quite a bit as an entrepreneur, and I can go into stories where we first got into Kroger. They say, hey, here's a $22,000 order. I say, wow, I'm rich. I can get this done. I make it. And then I realize I don't have the marketing dollars to support it. So maybe it's not great to do a $22,000 order if you don't have the marketing dollars or the people to actually make sure it's going to sell. Because otherwise, they'll go back to you and say, hey, thanks for that $22,000 order. We now need to charge you back for $9,000 of it. And
now,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, can you unpack that for us? What's that mean, the marketing dollars? Because if somebody's already buying it, does that imply that somebody's going to buy it out of their store as well?
Well, no, not necessarily. Just because people might like your product doesn't mean because you get in an area or in stores that people are going to go and buy it. And if they do buy it, are they buying enough of it? And we call that velocity or turns. How often is your product moving in those stores per store? And so I've even just did a call with Whole Foods several weeks ago. We're working on right now expanding from just Ohio to the entire region. And they told us, hey, we don't look at how many stores you're in. We just look at, if you're in one store, are you doing hundreds of units, or are you in 10 stores only doing a few units? Right. So that's more about what your velocity, your movement is per store. And so that can be applied to anything you do in business. Just don't get lost in trying to be everywhere. Just focus on doing well in that one customer.
Right. Yeah. Right. That makes a whole lot of sense. Definitely. I mean, you're somebody that is great to have a conversation with, because I grew up wanting to talk to people who are figuring out business. Mm-hmm. And those people aren't always easy to find, but we have an opportunity to talk to you today, to pick your brain, to learn your story, and to really hopefully apply it to our lives. And I think that's truly remarkable.
Thank you so much, Cedric.
That being said, do you have one place where you guys have high velocity?
I'd say our number one market right now is Heinen's.
Okay.
Again, many might not know Heinen's, but it's a premium grocery store with about 25 locations in Ohio and Chicago. And so for us, that was our first supermarket chain. And so you would see myself or some of our young entrepreneur interns actually in our stores, in those stores every single weekend. And they'd be there with the table, this young black kid, just, hey, try this applesauce. And from there, it started creating this, movement where people were going out just to go and buy the product and support it. We were in the local Plain Dealer, which is a publication in Cleveland. And again, that really created a lot of movement and credibility in that market.
If somebody wants to intern for your business in Cleveland, would that be a possibility?
Yeah, that'd be a definite possibility. And right now, we also employ young people for the summer to do farmers markets. There's no sampling allowed, but we right now just hired about 3 young men to actually do farmers markets around Cleveland.
Okay. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. What role does social media play in you guys getting the word out there about your product and the benefits of it?
Definitely. Social media has been huge for me personally as an entrepreneur. Really coming up every time I would make a batch or anytime I would have a success, I would post about it. And it allowed people, viewers, my audience to actually feel like they were a part of it. And so when we actually won a competition in 2017 called the Cleveland Chain Reaction competition, we actually won $130,000 investment with the Cleveland Foundation. And so with that, people were, literally going and calling me out of the blue, like, hey, Ethan, I've never met you, but I saw you win all this money and now you have your own facility. I'm proud of you because it feels like I won it too. And so social media allows people to feel like they're part of it, allows them to. So don't be the kind of person that's too private or feels like you're too cool, because again, you want to be transparent and allow people to feel like they're seeing your success unfold.
Right. So you're saying don't be afraid to be transparent on social media.
Exactly. And utilize social media, be personal with it. Not too personal, but make sure you're personal and strategic. Strategic is number one.
Absolutely. Strategic is always number one. Right. Ethan, what's next for you guys?
Yeah, great question. Right now we're looking to really expand. And that's really a great question, just because like what is next? There's so much to really do, but we're looking actually to expand into squeezable pouches. So the squeeze pouches that kids enjoy, we're again expanding on Amazon, working on going and expanding to all the Whole Foods stores throughout the region of the Midwest and eventually the West Coast. We are actually also closing a fundraising round to improve our website, our e-commerce, and being able to make the most of really the online market. So I'm really just expanding on it. Holmes Mouth Watering is the name of our brand, but for years we've really gone by Holmes Mouth Watering applesauce. So the big thing now is stepping away from applesauce and just being Holmes Mouth Watering, because we want to create more products.
Absolutely.
And we just moved into a facility in Cleveland, a much bigger facility. We don't own it, but they're actually going to be making our products for us. And this allows us to be able to do $1 million worth of volume per year. So that's huge for us, because it doesn't matter how much I sell. It doesn't matter if everybody wants to buy it. If you can't make enough of it as a manufacturer, then you're done. So that's been a big hurdle for me over the years, is being able to find a place that I can trust that can actually make it at the same quality every time. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen out there in the Cleveland, Ohio area, let's get some honorable, earnest, hard workers over there to Ethan and help him to build his Holmes Mouthwatering company into the huge enterprise that it deserves to be. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about George Washington Carver and how he made over 50 different products out of the peanut. And now here you are in our generation, potentially creating dozens of products out of apples. And so we know that George Washington Carver changed the world with what he did with peanuts. And here you are, a family man, a great man doing the same thing with apples. So I think this is just making my day today.
It's an honor to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 3 questions for you as we round third base. Again, I've really appreciated your time today. The first is, what is survival to you?
That's a great question. Survival to me is being able to. That's actually, I have to think about that. I guess it was just being, survival is being able to live and be able to do what you like and, feed your family or being able to feed yourself, shelter. And again, for me, survival is more about being able to do what I love and still be able to pay the bill. So It's really different for everybody. So.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And what is success to you?
Success is whatever, you define it as. So I know that's not a great answer, but for me, it's about teaching others to be successful, if that makes sense. I feel like, what's the point of being successful if others can't do it? You can't teach others to do it, around you. So that's really what success is to me.
All of your answers have been great today. Final question. What is greatness to you?
Greatness. Well, I'll kind of give a quote. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And Wayne Gretzky said that, famous hockey player. And I think that's what greatness is. It's just showing up every day, no matter what you do, whether you're into mechanics, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a teacher, showing up every day and putting 100% into it. I think that's greatness. And again, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So for those watching this, if you have an idea, a business that you've always wanted to start, just go out and figure out the steps and do it. Because all it takes is getting through that one step. All right, I figured out how to get the apples peeled. I figured out how to get the nutrition facts. And then the next thing you know, you're getting a purchase order from Whole Foods. And then you're like, wow, this is what I've always wanted to do. So just keep going.
Without a doubt. Ethan, I had a great time talking to you today. You're definitely an inspiration. I want to let you know that the work that you're doing is commendable. I think that it's legacy work. It will be historical work. It's going to elevate the greater Cleveland community. And it's going to be a shining example for all people, young and old, that, like you said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So what I want to do today is I want to give you your crown today. I want to let you know that what you're doing is awesome and that you are America's next motivator.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's an honor to be here, Cedric, and I'll make sure to get your mailing address. I know you have children. Love to send you some applesauce. It's on the house, and thank you for having me. It's an honor. So
for sure. All right, Ethan, we'll hear back from you soon. All right, thanks so much for being here today.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye. Ladies and gentlemen, keep coming back here and visiting America's Next Motivator, because each and every time you do, there's going to be something here for you. You just need to stop by and pick it up.